All right. Greetings, humans. Welcome to Mike and Dave's Multiverse, where we surf the cosmic waves of the unknown. This week, take the red pill from the Black MacGyver himself, Hakim Isler, combat vet, ninja master, and psychic pioneer. Buckle in, explorers of the extraordinary, as your host, Dave, dives deep with Hakim into his high-stakes military journey from elite special operations and PSYOPs to survival mastery and his epic pivot to TV stardom, which is where I first saw him, but didn't realize it until Contact in the Desert, which we're going to get into as well. So from battlefield grit to unlocking hidden human potentials, we're going to explore his mind-expanding odyssey. I'm super excited to welcome Hakim Isler to the Multiverse, man. Thanks for joining the Multiverse.
Thank you, brother. That was the best intro I have ever had.
Yes. Cool.
I'm gonna hire you as my hype guy or something.
Thank you. I'll follow you around to shit and I'll just hype you up. Yeah. No, I'm excited to talk to you, and I've been really working on that as part of my game for the show. So I really appreciate the the feedback. So let me give you a little bit of like how this came about for me. I saw you in it's your speech on Cynetics 101 at Contact in the Desert. But since then, I've been to like a couple different conferences. It's been a while, and but since I saw that, I was like, I got to talk to this guy. So I look you up. I realized, your background in martial arts, your military experience. You and I have a lot in common. I have a background in martial arts, not quite as extensive as you, and I was also a medic in the U.S. Army for 8 years, and so I just really thought you had a lot of we could have a great conversation. But really, I want to tell your story, man. So starting with let's start at more of the present, and then I'll take us back to the past, because I didn't even know what Cynetics was going into Contact in the Desert. I was showing up as sort of, I always wanted to, go to one of UFO conference, right? And then they're sitting there in your speech, and it was very mind expanding for me. And so I've been kind of going down that rabbit hole since then. And so can you tell us, a little bit about what Cynetics is and your most recent event, the Psy Games, I think it was called?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things as I was on this journey of understanding psi and delivering it in a way that made sense for our modern day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at the time, psionics had come out as
Mm-hmm.
the psionic assets. Jake Barber made that popular again
Yes.
when he came out. And one of the challenges is that we are in a new time, a new evolution, a new understanding of our
Mm.
psi abilities. And to use terms from the past means that you carry the baggage of those terms,
Yes.
right? And so, not that psionics is wrong, not that psychotronics is wrong. It's just that these things carry a bunch of weight,
Mm.
sometimes tied to government organizations, sometimes tied to fantasy.
Corruptness
Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah.
yeah. And so, therefore, it's like, okay, if we want to really bring in and usher in a new age of psi potential and
Mm-hmm.
psi understanding,
Mm-hmm.
then taking words that that are from the past that may have negative baggage with them, it's probably not the best thing for us,
So
because energy carries in a name, right?
it's a bit of a
um
rebrand, right?
yeah. And so instead, let's just come up with a term that really makes sense for us in this modern day, that
Mm-hmm.
also, and it was very important for me to weave in ethics into whatever
Mm-hmm.
definition of whatever word that was created. And so that's where cynetics came in, was that, okay, I'm going to create a word that focuses on the full spectrum of psi abilities, but then also incorporated in that, in the development of the word itself, is this idea of ethics and ethical use
Mm.
of these abilities.
Yeah, you said a lot of great things here, especially, first of all, evolving, the words to go with the time and the new understanding of, our abilities and these ideas. And then I was going to ask, because I'm a social worker by trade, and ethical consideration is part of everything we do. And so I always think about that, like, in a time where we're seeing these evolving abilities and also technologies that could potentially augment them, you know, ethics is a super important part of that, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's, if we look at an age in which we're saying everybody has these potentials, we feel like people's lives could be better with these potentials and bringing out these potentials. Then we also have to think about the balance of this and say to ourselves, well, we also need to understand that there are negative aspects to these potentials, and that
Mm-hmm.
when people come to these potentials, if they have, you know, maybe trauma in their background, or some
Mm-hmm.
other type of thing that creates a lot of turmoil, then it could these potentials could be used in a harmful way. And so what does it look like to have a society where many people are tapping into these abilities? Well, it doesn't feel right to also say that everybody needs to join like a monastery or
Right.
a yoga ashram and then learn about the 8 limbs of yoga, because not everybody's going to do that neither. But people are manifesting these abilities, and what we see is that children are coming into the world with these already intact.
Mm-hmm.
So then
Mm-hmm.
we have two choices: either we say that you're wrong, this is bad, this is witchcraft, don't do it, or we say let's give you, like we do with most things, let's give you guidance and mentorship and help
Mm.
you understand how to do these things in an ethical way. So when you have a child, which I have a daughter who's about to be 1 year old next week, when she starts speaking and when she starts picking things up more and using tools, I could say, hey, don't do that because there's a potential that you can use these wrong. Or I could say, hey, here's how you use them in a positive way.
Mm.
Here's how you use your words in a positive way that heals and helps. Here's how you use your actions in a positive way that heals and
Mm-hmm.
helps. Or
Mm-hmm.
I could just say, do it wrong and teach her to do it wrong in a
Mm-hmm.
way that's going to hurt people. Or I could just pretend that it doesn't exist and that she's not really developing these things and say, oh, stop doing that, that's wrong, that's bad, whatever.
Right.
So I choose the beginning one, the first one, which is the idea that, hey, let's give some guidance and some mentorship in a positive way to help people with this. And so that discussion has to happen about ethics if we really truly want to bring this forward in a way that is helpful to society.
Yeah, I agree. And so when I saw you at Contact in the Desert, I started thinking about these things. But I looked you up, and that's when I was like, "Oh, he was on Naked and Afraid too." That's where I've seen. I hadn't made that connection, but I was really interested in this stuff, and it took me down the rabbit hole. And I ended up. Do you know Dahlia? She was on Joe Rogan. I
Yes.
think she was at your recent Games event as well, possibly.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know.
Dahlia hasn't been on Joe Rogan, but she's been on
Oh, it's our
Danny
Danny
Jones.
Jones. My
Yeah.
bad,
Yeah.
Danny Jones. I saw her on Danny Jones, yeah,
Hmm.
recently, and so I
Yes.
actually booked her too. She's coming on tomorrow because I'm really interested in this. But she's one of the pioneers of like sort of putting herself out there and navigating, these waters publicly, and learning how to teach, and learn herself how to communicate with her child with these abilities. And so how do you feel about her and like her role and like pushing, or people like her at the beginning of this and pushing, this sort of evolution of our consciousness forward?
Yeah, so Dahlia and I are really good friends, and actually, I had asked her to be a part of my panel at Contact in the Desert, which
Okay.
is where she was kind of discovered in this really major way. And the idea that she and I talked about when this came up was that, there is going to be a lot of popularity, but then also negativity that comes with you putting yourself out there and putting
Mm-hmm.
your daughter out there.
Right.
And I think she's a saint in her own
Yeah.
way because she was willing to take that on to see the field flourish and to grow. And since then, she's just been doing such amazing work and putting herself out there. And one of the things that I found that's really disheartening to some degree is that there's been people in our own community. So people will talk about aliens and this and that
Mm-hmm.
and all the
Mm-hmm.
experiences they have. And then you have this person who comes forward and they can do this really incredible thing.
Yeah.
And then those same people are quick to say, oh, that's fake,
Right.
But let me tell you about Bigfoot.
Yeah,
And
right.
how he visits me every day. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. But let me show you Dahlia, who can really do this thing. And for oh no, that's fake. She's looking around the mask somehow. I can't figure it out. But I really want to tell you about how this alien visits me in my bathroom every night. And it's like, okay, got it. Like I want to support you, but also I would love to see that you at least give her a shot. This woman who's coming out, putting herself and her daughter on the line,
Well,
and not just trying to throw her under the bus just because it doesn't fit your paradigm.
well, yeah, and that's the first thing I thought because that episode got a lot of views, and I'm thinking she's putting this out there, and like that takes bravery. And so for people who don't know exactly, but maybe don't know specifically what we're talking about, what kind of abilities are we talking about? And within Dahlia and her daughter, but then also just within what you noticed with your work, like what kind of abilities are we talking about here?
Yeah, so Dahlia, one of her primary abilities in which she's like really gone viral with is mind sight, this ability to
Mm-hmm.
see without your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and that's something that's been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
There's a movie out on Netflix called Henry Sugar, the magnificent tale or story of Henry Sugar, and it talks about this guy who studied this yoga practice and was able to break through and have this ability as well. And then her daughter is telepathic. They
Mm-hmm.
both have multiple talents,
Mm-hmm.
but these are the ones that they're known for. And her daughter share information telepathically from mind to mind.
Is
And
it is
so
it just it's just they go back and forth, or it's just from daughter to mother?
So primarily, if you talk to Dahlia, Lidu, which is her daughter's name,
Mm-hmm.
is primarily the sender and
Okay.
receiver.
All right.
Dahlia can do a little bit of it from what she has been saying that Lidu has kind of been helping her grow in
Right.
that particular way. So those are the two potentials and the two psi abilities that they
They
express the
have.
most. But Dahlia's been working with psychokinesis a little bit and telekinesis. There's other things that she does as well that she does really well. And again, it's cool. We have a lot happening right now that's coming
Yeah.
out in the world.
Yeah. So are there any other type of abilities that you've observed in or demonstrated, like in sort of besides telepathy and then the mind sight?
Yeah, so the 5 disciplines that we work at the side games are mind sight, remote viewing, psychokinesis or telekinesis / telekinesis,
Mm-hmm.
dowsing, and
Mm-hmm.
precognition. And
Okay.
so your ability to see the future. And
Yep.
so one of the things that I found, and this is why I chose these 5 disciplines, was
Mm-hmm.
because they kind of work off the same mechanism, right?
Uh-huh.
So, it's kind of very similar principles. And what I like to equate it to is, you know, um, let's say handball, baseball, basketball,
Mm-hmm.
you this idea of using my arm and my hand to
Ah,
throw something in the air and
yes.
calculate that thing lands somewhere that I'm looking at. So if I'm using a handball, I got to hit the ball and have it go in a certain direction and hit in a certain area and move. So that takes very similar processes as if I'm in baseball and I'm throwing a ball to a
Yep.
catcher somewhere, or basketball and I'm shooting a ball to the hoop somewhere. So they're different games, but the underlying mechanisms to make those things possible in the human body and mind are kind of similar. And so the same with this, like remote viewing, mind sight, dowsing, precognition, and psychokinesis, they all have an underlying similarity in your desire or your understanding of intention, attention, your ability to move your attention and intention to different places for different focuses. And so that's kind of why we've chose that. So those are some of the abilities that we work on, are the psi abilities. But telepathy is going to be one that we do in the future. It's not one that we're doing right this moment, because at times it can be a little convoluted and tough to have it as a competition on a stage where people can do it in a very clean and concise way that we can score and everybody understands what's going on and it's
Right.
not losing people.
Right. Yeah, that was an excellent explanation. And just shout out to Dahlia and her bravery and, putting this stuff to the test. And I suspect more people will start coming forward, hopefully, with her abilities that we can see and just expand human potential.
Subscribe to Mike and Dave's Multiverse on YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble today.